In this module, we will create a game-level design for our player character that consists of tile-based environmental sprites. These sprite tiles allow quick creation of game levels due to their easy reuse in a wide variety of configurations. It's time to give our sprite player character a sprite-based world to live in. So we're going to go about creating some environmental tiles with some new imported textures. So let's get going on that. First off, we're going to go to our source folder in the browser, and we're going to do an import here. And there's an environmental sprite sheet here that I prepared based on the original art by Stephen Challoner. So when I open this up, we have to go through the regular procedures of applying 2D paper 2D texture settings under Sprite Actions. So we'll double click that to preserve the transparency. So I'm going to double click this here, and we can see that there's a variety of things that have been split up into tiles, into sort of modular pieces here. We have some rocks in the upper left-hand corner. We have on the right side here, we have what look like parts of skyscraper or high-rise buildings. Down below in the lower right, we have a bunch of metal girders of varying states of pristine or damaged states. And then over on the left, we have some sort of mechanical pieces, including some tubes, some pipes, and some cement blocks. So this is all very good. We can use this for a variety of different designs. So I'm going to go through the usual process here of right-clicking on environment tiles, going to Sprite Actions and extract sprites. And because this is laid out in a nice clean sheet, we can stick with the auto sprite extract mode. And there's a variety of different sizes here. Some are irregular size and some are more standard actual tile power of 2 sized. The ones for the building, the rocks, the sort of cement blocks, those are all 32 by 32 tiles. I tried to preserve that when I split them apart. And by keeping distances between them, that enabled, on the original PNG that is, that enabled the extract sprites dialog here to find the edges and do a good version of these sprites through auto extraction. So let's see, we are going to rename this imported file first here so we can get a clean naming convention going once all the sprites are extracted, because there'll be a lot of sprites that get extracted from this. We'll just call this env_tile. And I'll double click on it again. Okay, looks good. And again, right click, Sprite Actions, extract sprites. And we'll just get rid of this sprite word here and keep the underscore and then the number in brackets and extract. Okay, and we have all these sprites here. We're going to do a little bit of organization under sprites. In the content browser, we'll make a new folder. We'll call it environment. And we'll drag all the new sprites we just created, all the env tile sprites, to environment and move here, just to keep things a little more organized. Now that our sprites are imported, we're going to do a little more work in the sprite editor. So if we double click some of these here, let's look at a fairly regular sprite like this one. By regular sprite, I mean 32 by 32 perfect tile sprite like this. We can see the source dimensions in the upper right hand corner. It's listed again as 32 by 32. And the pivot mode isn't really important on this particular sprite. We're going to leave all these as center center. We're just going to be assembling them in the editor in the viewport window. So in pixels per unit, we see 1 pixels per unit. If I hover over this, it says the scaling factor between pixels and Unreal units. So what this means is this will help us keep a standard census scale across the game world as we're building this, because we'll be building it in, I'll do a quick overview of this. We'll be building this in front view. So if I go here to the viewport window and I do perspective front, we have right here, we have our grid snap set to 1 pixel. So what that means is if I put this here, I drop it right in the world like this, we're just going to build in this mode in front view. And if we zoom in really closely, we can see this is aligned to the grid. And if I use the arrow keys, I can nudge it 1 arrow at a time. And because this tiles perfectly, I can alt drag this to copy it like that, and then zoom way in and then nudge it over with the arrow keys. And we back out that it tiles perfectly. However many of these I alt drag around. This allows us to create ground and large patches of ground, small patches of ground, or gameplay areas like that. So I'll go back to our content browser here, and we'll open this up again. Look at a few more options here. Source region, it directly relates to source dimension here. If I increase this X value, say to double this, we can see it's extending to a larger portion of the tile sheet that we imported. So let's see if I do edit source region, we can see right here what that's doing. It's actually expanding that even farther out. So I'll just keep this back down to 32 where it originally was. But you might have certain cases where you want your sprites to be combined in different ways, or you want to redraw your sprite boundaries from your sprite sheet. And this is what you'd use here in the source region option to make that happen. Also, I'm going to close this up and we're going to do a look at edit collision on maybe an irregular shaped sprite. This is a good example right here. This is one of the edges of the building. Let's just take this one here. So if we look at edit collision, by default, it appears to follow the boundaries of the source dimension, the square 32 by 32 that we had. But we can see this edge over here to the left is a little irregular. So we're going to add a few more vertices to this collision boundary. So if I shift click like this, I can add extra points. So if I want this edge to be a little more rounded, I can do that. I can make this a little bit rounded like that to make ramps. Because now when the player moves over this thing will be, they won't be hovering over an empty area right here on the upper left of this sprite. So I can save it like that. You can also, up here you can add extra shapes if you want to. You can add a circle, which we don't need a circle or extra polygons. But usually for what you're doing in low-res games like this, you can usually just add vertices to your sprite collision and edit them from there. So let's see. That's saved. Edit render geometry. Also kind of similar. Let's see if I drag that, you can see it's also choosing to draw more of the sprite sheet when I make these bounds larger than they start out, like that. We'll just keep that again at 32 by 32. Okay, and that's how we can go about creating a nice batch of sprite tiles to begin building our level design.